Anyway, I should probably go and do something while I mess with the final few settings for probably too long. Why? Oh, the thing is not showing up. There's like a thing saying that it should be capturing audio, but it doesn't. And I don't know why it doesn't. Okay, well, I guess it's going to ignore that then. It's going to pretend that the music doesn't exist. Anyway, for the one person out there who's probably my friend, hello. This is my first stream in a really, really long time. I think maybe like a month or six, maybe. Well, anyway, the occasion being that I have once again thrown myself into a new project. This one being the creation of an audiobook. And as I'm working on this, it finally dawned on me that maybe I should try to show people what I'm working on in a way that will allow people to follow along in some way. Because right now I'm kind of just assuming that it's all going to happen on its own, which it isn't, is it? So that's what we're doing today. We're just going to be working on the project. We're going to be checking out some submissions that I got for certain roles that still need to be filled. And I'm going to tell you a bit about the project and show you the script as it is right now, or at least a part of it. So, yeah, that's what I got planned. Beyond that, didn't really think this through. So, yeah, yeah, we're just gonna start like that. First of all, I guess I'm just gonna pull up the actual project page, which I have right here. I see that there's also some messages that I've got coming in or notifications, but not to worry. Just gonna move it over to the main screen here. There we go. Okay. So, um, this is not actually relevant. This is just my dashboard. But if you go over here to the projects, we can see the Blacklight audiobook, which is what the stream is all about. So it's gonna go to the public page. Okay. Got blinded there for a second. Um, all right. Okay, so here it is. This is the Blacklight project, which is an audiobook project that's based on a story that already exists or that's currently being made. Uh, because for those of you who don't know, which is probably going to be all of you, I am actually currently working on a story that's being posted to AO3, Archive of Our Own. And yeah, it's called Blacklight, and it's this thriller thing where I basically just go all in on whatever youthful fantasies I had years ago. Um, it used to be a very loose happening of different characters that kind of just did their thing together, and I think that's how most of my stories have started. However, um, as I've grown up more and gotten into the flow of writing more, I started figuring out how to turn these things into actual proper narratives. So that's what that was. That was me turning the project into something more advanced, more cohesive. Um, yeah, and while we're at it, by the way, before I forget, I'm just going to edit the project and I'm going to put the deadline on a different date. I'm going to put it at the end of the month because I'm actually going to need more time for this. I'm going to need more time to get all the people I want or need more so. Yeah, if anyone in the future who's been following the project or has sent in a submission for it is watching the stream, I just want to say thank you so much for even um, for even just checking it out, I suppose, and taking the time to record something with what lines and what information I put out there. And yeah, yeah, thank you. So anyway, I just got immensely sidetracked. So let's go back to the actual page. which blinded me again. Ow. Okay, so um, yeah, the Blacklight project. So, like as I was saying, it was supposed to be just kind of an elevated version of what I had already made, and that's what was going on. I was also mainly doing it for fun. Um, and here, this is me kind of charting new territory in a way. I've never done anything like this before. I've never made an audiobook, let alone something that's not just text on paper. Well, it's not entirely true. I did have one of my stories narrated previously. That was, I think, almost 2 years ago now. And at the time, I figured out that it was actually a really fun way to retell the story. And this time, I'm taking that into the um, well, completely off-road direction, you could say. So that's what this is. And I posted here on Casting Call Club, and I just wanted to see who would come at it. Well, after some hiccups and what do you call it, bumps in the road, I finally got together a bunch of people who were willing to work on it. Um, of course, there are some details about actual payment and what you can expect as payment, which is honestly, I'm not too happy about the way that's going, but I've had to kind of just accept that I am sadly um, a very much broke student, so kind of lacking in the money department here. But I'm pumping resources into this, hoping that there's someone who might be willing to give this a shot anyway. And I've been finding those people. So yeah, it's gone quite a long way already. I think I posted this sometime halfway through December, maybe like even start of December, and yeah, it's been doing rounds. Um, yeah, it's currently sitting on a comfortable 282 submissions and 196 followers, which is, well, grand. That's honestly much more than I was expecting. Going into this, I was thinking maybe I'd get like 2 or 3 submissions per character, and that was me being optimistic. Um, but the sheer number and volume of people that got into this and were willing to give it a shot is just it's staggering to me. I didn't even know that there were that many people active on this platform. In retrospect, I might have had to expect as much, but I just didn't. So when the auditions started flowing in more rapidly, like maybe like 10 or 12 a night for me, because every time I go to sleep, that's when all of the Americans wake up, and I've got mostly people from America um, auditioning for this. So yeah, I just wake up to a full inbox like this one here. I just wake up to yeah, like just another submission, and we're going to look at this one in a second. So yeah, I guess it really did come a long way, and at times I still don't really know what to do with all this. Well, I do know where I want to take it. It's just um I feel like with this much attention, I've almost got this obligation to um get it out of the woods, if you know what I mean. And that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to get it out there and make sure that it'll turn into a finished product. So between all of the drafts and different takes on the script, as well as the voice actors coming in, it's really starting to take a shape that I like as the author. So I suppose with not much else to do, we're just going to go and take a look at some of these auditions. Okay, I'm just going to pull up 2 pages. I'm going to pull up the actual public page. I'm going to pull up my submissions page. So that's those two. All right, let's take a look at these roles, because most of these are actually already filled. These are the first roles that I actually posted out here. Um, so this is Alex Gray. This is the main character, and there's actually already been quite quite a lot of interest in this character, but I ended up having to pick one maybe 2 weeks ago, I think. So yeah, there was a lot of interest in Alex, and then we have Alex is being voiced by Craven, by the way, Craven VA. So I suppose a shout out to that person. I had a talk with him recently, and he's a really wonderful guy. And a talented voice actor, by the way. So there you have it. I suppose I should show you his profile. So yeah, there you have it. That's Craven. And as you can see, Craven's been involved in quite a bit of projects, and I just, yeah, like this guy is saying, this guy couldn't have said it better. What an absolute legend you are, and I would like to agree with that. All right, so that's Craven, and Craven is voicing Alex. Um, so I guess I should say a little bit about the character. Alex um, is this young adult man who has grown up in this city called Corridam, and it is there that he works as a branch leader in a large corporation. This corporation, which is called Forever Tech, manufactures well large amounts of technology. So think like computer chips, but also monitors and sometimes even vehicle parts. It goes as far as Forever Tech designing security systems, which comes back a lot in the story. Um, and then this creates a lot of friction within the family because Alex's parents actually um, died because of some things that the CEO of Forever Tech did, which is a very prevalent theme because it frequently comes back between Alex and his brothers because he's got a manager role within the company, and that's just something that rubs people the wrong way, which is honestly like from an outside perspective is very understandable as this company is just kind of well fairly evil. But Alex is just trying to provide for his family. So he works for this company, kind of like feeding the beast in an attempt to get out of it himself. And, well, it's working. He's been able to keep the family home, even though both his parents have died. And is able to feed both his brothers, which is really all he wants. Um, yeah, so there's a more extensive description of him here on this page, but I'm just going to brush over that a little bit. Um, all right, maybe let's take a look at one of the takes that I had shortlisted for this character, and then we'll also take a look at Craven. Actually, let's just take a look at Craven's first, because these are all the assigned people who have been like already chosen, and then we've got Craven right here for Alex Gray. So it's gonna make sure that was the one that we're looking at. Um, yeah. So let's take a look at the lines. The audition lines that are posted in here are actually lines from the original story, the original book. Some of these lines did make it into the script, but not really all of them. Um, so the first one, what's not fair is that you keep putting Thomas in danger. We had a deal. Is this line that's said during the first chapter, where Alex has to bail Nick out of a dodgy situation. And he feels betrayed, right? He feels betrayed because the two of them had a deal that um, Nick would not steal from corporations, specifically not Forever Tech, because that could jeopardize Alex's role within the company. And not only that, but it could get them in some serious trouble that would be bad for the entire family. So that's a lot of betrayal and anger there. But then it goes over to the second line, which is "You're so cold. When did you last eat?" And then also the third one, which is from the same chapter, which says, "Don't worry, he can't find you here. He'll never find you here." These two are from a later chapter. I think it's called Hex. Yeah, it's a later chapter called Hex. And in here, Alex is talking to this friend of his um, who just got assaulted in some really bad ways. Um, and he's just trying to kind of console him in that moment. So we've got this character who is both kind of brutal in the sense that he doesn't really take any kind of any kind of, I suppose you could say, mistakes from specifically the middle brother, which is Nick. He really just doesn't want anyone jeopardizing the family in any way, and if they do, he just doesn't allow it. So we've got that very harsh personality, kind of controlling, and then right up to that, we've got this very soft, very kind and caring person, because a lot of that anger and frustration is because he cares so much about his family and wants to protect them. So as I was scrolling through submissions, I was really looking for that duality. I was looking for someone who could kind of hit both. Um, when I was checking out the submissions, I quickly already had a selection of people that I kind of stuck with until I actually did pick one. And one of the people in that selection was Craven. So I guess I'll just put on that one. But before I do that, I'm going to make sure that you can actually hear it, because I don't think it's going to allow you to hear it. So let's see. Audio output enabled. All right. I'm just going to test it. That's loud. I'm sorry. I'm going to put that down a little bit. All right. Okay, so let's just put up the audition.
What's not fair is that you keep putting Thomas in danger. We had a deal. You know what's not fair? You keeping Thomas in danger. We had a deal. You're so cold. When did you last eat? You're so cold. When did you last eat? Don't worry. He can't find you here. He'll never find you here. Don't worry. He can't find you here. He'll never find you here.
So I will admit, initially when I listened to this one, I my first thought was that maybe Craven didn't quite hit like the range of character here. But then as I went back to it, um, one, I figured out quite quickly that Craven is a really talented voice actor, and I didn't really put it past him that with a little bit of direction he could hit that like softer bits. But also, um, I realized there was still like some of the sternness in there, and you could call me looking too much into it, but when you have like 30 auditions for one role, you really have to look at some details that you otherwise would count as insignificant. And that's what I was doing at the time, right? I was having to look at things that I wouldn't normally look at, because there's just some insanely talented people trying to get the role. Another one that was really close to getting this role, actually. Let me see if it'll load, because this platform sometimes have some buffering issues. Well, there it is. Okay. Because another person who ended up auditioning is this person, Exotic Butter, who was actually my second pick for the role. So we'll actually just sound that.
What's not fair is that you keep putting Thomas in danger. We had a deal. You're so cold. When did you last eat? Don't worry. He can't find you here. He'll never find you here.
Yeah, so as you can see, there's a lot more range there. So when I first heard this one, I actually kind of pinned it above Craven, because I was like, okay, that's a lot more what I was going for in terms of contrast. Um, the reason that Craven ended up being my pick over Exotic Butter was also the portfolio, but it was uh, a bunch of recommendations that piled up for having Craven, and then beyond that, um, it's just I don't know. It was the first audition that I received, and kind of from point one, I was just sold on it. There's really no other reason to it. I just kind of knew And I think it was that way for a lot of these auditions. I had a lot of times where um, my reasoning behind picking the people who I picked was me just liking them. And oftentimes I would also send the auditions, the files over to friends and have them make a ranking for me. And usually I got roughly the same answer out of them. Uh, okay, let me look at the stream data here because I saw some bitrate ticking a second ago. Okay, I think I must have hallucinated that. Yeah, I think I hallucinated that. I am, if we're gonna take a moment to do that. So that's out of my screen. All right. Yeah, so I suppose that's Alex. I'm going through these kind of quickly because I also want to do some writing still, since that's also the point of this stream, to show you what I'm doing beyond all this. Um, yeah, so, all right, let's take a look at Nick. So, Nick is the younger brother character. That's the best way I can put it. Um, it's kind of like it's almost cliche how he's this brazen character who just goes out of his way to be fierce and just sometimes kind of naive, but always on the front lines, always kicking at injustice. Um, so Nick is kind of the textbook example of, um, I guess, kind of like a student revolutionary, but not in like a derogatory way, more like in a positive way, in the sense that he has a lot of disdain for the injustice in the world, and he's willing to put himself out there in any way he can to fix these things and to make things better. And that shows a lot in Nick's character, in the way he does things, in the way he just throws himself at situations, but it also shows in his interactions with Alex. Because in one way, he really does love Alex because of all he does to keep the family safe and how he's been able to maintain the house and make sure they all lived comfortably until they got jobs and educations. Um, so there's a lot of respect there, but then also there's a lot of anger towards his occupation, which is this branch manager, right, for Forever Tech. And Nick is very much anti corporate in the sense that he realizes that a lot of the pain that's happening around them is coming from something, something suffering. Hey, hold on, I'm seeing blips in the side of my screen. Yeah, this isn't grounded. Twitch lied to you. Twitch lied to you. I actually changed the stream info to a different category when I started the stream. Is it still saying grounded? I'm gonna reckon it's still saying grounded. Hold on, let me actually also check that. Oh, your email said grounded. Okay, well there you have it. Well, I'm not playing grounded. I'm actually like showing the project and just kind of like doing my thing, I guess. Oh, also, you can disregard that message I sent you. I already fixed it. I was panicking because I couldn't find the login details to my Twitch account, and Twitch wouldn't give me the proper credentials. So that's why there was panic. But it has been fixed, as you can see. Yeah, immensely funny, immensely funny. I found it so funny, in fact, I almost just like died. I actually just had a heart attack, but we're fine. Because for a second there, I thought my account got deleted because Twitch wouldn't give me the email. I should what? Get a heart attack? Wow, gee, thanks, man. I know, you can always count on you. Can always count on you to like, show me every corner of my psyche, I guess. Like the meme says. Which meme? Okay. It actually got the message got got held for aggression, but they just me to verify my message. It's fine. I allowed it. I like how it says river riding permitted the term I hope you die. Wow. Okay. Way to take it out of context. Do you remember that meme? Yeah, I do remember it. I do remember it. It was like the same kind of vein of memes at I'm not reading all that, but I'm glad it happened or sorry it happened. Yeah, anyway, I should probably get back to doing my things. So, uh yeah. No, no, it was that Rainbow Six meme. You mean the where they got asked whether they would be there for? Oh, that one. Okay, yeah. Now I remember the video actually. Yeah, okay, I recall. I know what you're saying. Also, let me do something real quick. Uh, there we go. Something 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 lists. Something something. Okay, well there we go. All right. All right, but I'm gonna like continue doing my thing now because I was like explaining. I gotta go. Yeah, I know, I know. Go, goodbye. All right. Uh, goodbye. So, I suppose back to the thing. What was I talking about? Wow, that like derailed me so hard. What was I talking about? I was talking about the different roles, and I was talking about Nick's character. Right? Okay. Uh, you know what? You know what? You know what? I completely lost my train of thought. So I'm not even gonna start over. I'm just going to actually show you some of the submissions I got. The person who got the person who got accepted for this role was Aiden Costa. This happened really quickly. Aiden was accepted very briefly after posting this because we kind of just I was looking into it with a friend and we heard his audition and we just immediately realized like okay, this is the guy, you know, we need to have this one. So we didn't waste any time and just threw it out there immediately. So I'm just gonna pull up Agent Aiden's audition, which is in the assigned tab for Nick. Right here. Um, there were a total of 5 submissions before this choice was made. In complete contrast, there were like 50 auditions. Like I think I just saw the number. There's how many? 5 for Nick, and then there's like 44 for Alex. So that shows the time difference, but also um, that's how quickly I figured out who I wanted, and that's Aiden's. I'm just gonna put on Aiden's submission.
Hey, Al, would you mind? You love me when I'm a mess. Why don't you read me my future, old man?
Okay, I think the sound was kind of low, but I'm gonna bet you got the point. So yeah, it's just it completely it just immediately strikes the exact thing I was hoping for. Because if you go back for these lines, you've got like, "Hey Al, would you mind? Would you love me when I'm a mess? And why don't you read me my future, old man?" These first 2 lines are from the first chapter as well, so they're both from Renegade. And then this last line is from I believe Birds of a Feather, which is where um which is like one of the turning points in Nick's story. So um, this first section, like, "Hey Al, would you mind?" and "You love me when I'm a mess," really needs to like show that snark he has, because he's a confident person. He's a confident person in the way he talks, in the way he does things, and it should really show in the dialogue. And I think one of the main ways to show confidence is um, to kind of have characters be playful in their mannerisms in a way. I'm not really sure how to explain it. I'm also kind of just throwing things at the wall here and seeing what sticks. But so far, this has stuck with me. Um, I just love it. I think it's great. I think it gets that snark here, but then also it immediately gets in the last line, it gets the frustration with the world and kind of just like, why are you talking to me? Like, this is not worth my time. I just had a bad day. Why are you doing this? So yeah, and that audition has really hit all three of those marks, and I think that's really fun. I think that's great. Um, yeah, and I saw like a couple auditions like that for Nick, but none did it immediately as well as Aiden. So that's why that choice was made. Although, let me put it out there, every person who auditioned for these, I loved listening to every last one of them. I just did. Like, one, because it's just so foreign to me doing this, but also it's just like, even just the fact that you're taking the time is already just incredible. And even if I got like one audition per role, and all of them were, like first time voice actors with like a cardboard microphone, who are just doing this from their living room. Even then, I would have been happy and incredibly thankful. But just the fact that there are actual auditions that resonated with me immediately, it goes one step beyond that, and I love that. So, all right. Uh, this is Dorian, and Dorian is a complicated character in a lot of ways, but he's complicated in the sense that he has a very like kind of victim story. He starts out as this victim of the main bad guy who is below here, the overseer. So he starts off as this victim of the bad guy, and he has to go from a victim role to um I was going to say to the person doing the victimizing, but that's not true. He doesn't actually um he doesn't turn malicious, but he has to go from this timid person to someone who's willing to take control. Um and that's an important part of this character, but it does mean that there are some moments in the story that I warn about, kind of. I kind of hinted at it here. I don't really hint at it elsewhere, but I do. It does show in the lines a lot. Like, specifically this second line, which is, "I just want to leave, please." And I hoped that this second line would be the trigger for people to kind of see, like, okay, this is a very three-dimensional character who has a lot of different faces that he cycles through. Because the first one is like this. Um, is this moment where he's debriefing. So this is like relief. Like, okay, it's over. Whatever I just had to do. And then the second one is just fear. It's just straight up fear. There's nothing else to it. It's just, I want to get out of here. And then the last one is confidence, but also being flirtatious, which is important to the character as well. Um, so yeah, that's really what I was going for. At first, I was kind of scared because I had this roll up for, I believe, like 3, 4 weeks. Like, I think almost an entire month. And by the time I was ready to pick someone, I had 11 submissions, which sounds like quite a bit. But if you compare it to like Alex, who has 44, and by the time had around 30, and then you have over here the overseer, who by that time had like 28. That's quite a large difference. There's less than half the amount here. So I also had less than half the amount of people I could pick from, which honestly was kind of a blessing in hindsight, not having that many options. But it also kind of made me a little bit afraid because I started wondering if maybe the character was too um, too jarring in a way, if it was too uncomfortable, and maybe I had gone overboard with it. Like that crossed my mind a couple of times, um, but it ended up coming through in the sense that I did get some submissions, and I got one person who I was very happy to ask for the project, which is limited time offer. So we're going to go to their thing, Dorian. Okay, so here's the submission that I end up going with.
He should be dead by now, Seer Sir. I just want to leave! Please! So, what'll it be today then, big boy?
And I think I think this is it was tough coming to this decision. I didn't have a moment with Dorian where I was like, this is it. This is the one I want. Because um, I don't think I was ever going to hit that point with this character. It felt pretty much impossible to get something that would seem like it clicked immediately. And I think that's because um, I think that's because Dorian is just a character that um, has never really had a voice for me. You know, if you are writing something or you're reading something in your voice, you can kind of tell what someone sounds like in a way. I don't know if everyone has that, but for example, if you have this character who is described as being like big and bulky and slow and like strong, and you kind of already know in your head that character has a very deep voice or like a very low voice. And with Dorian, I just had no idea. I didn't know what I wanted him to sound like at all going into it. And I think that did mess a little bit with um, with my picks for this character. Even though it ended up coming out fine, like if anything, I'm really happy with the way this character is going. It's just I don't know. There's just something to it. You know, sometimes I just have characters like that, and I don't know where to go with that. But honestly, I'm ready to just kind of go for it and just see what happens with Dorian. So let's move on to something else. Let's move on to the Overseer. The Overseer is perhaps not quite as complex of a character, but the Overseer is to me one of the most interesting characters, simply because the Overseer is the big bad. Out of all of the minor villains and all of the people who are just douchebags or just bad people in general, the Overseer just takes the cake immediately and is almost this cartoonish villain. But the Overseer as a character is uh, comes from like a law enforcement position. They are this private police force that got enlisted by the government in some way. It isn't really elaborated on how that happened, at least not in the first couple of chapters. And um, they got instated as this police force who was supposed to keep the peace. And because of this, they were very aptly named the Peacekeeper Force. Short, in short, I often call it the PKF. And uh, the Peacekeepers are, in our rights, probably the good guys in a lot of contexts, in the sense that they specifically go after high-profile criminals. They make sure that the streets are peaceful and calm whenever they can, and they are specifically out at night when crime is highest. So in that context, they are good people. But then the flip side of that is that a lot of the people who are labeled as criminals within Korodam are not inherently people with bad intentions. And that comes back a lot in Blacklight, intentions and good and bad intentions, and how it can easily be a bad thing you're doing even though your intentions are good. And the Overseer is one of those characters who has good intentions, does bad things. So then I guess let's home in a bit on the character itself. It is this faceless character who always wears a mask in a very I was going to say Bond villain-esque way, but not really like that. It's more so in like a Star Wars villain way, where he is just this unstoppable force that turns up sometimes and just uproots the entire operation before your eyes. And that's how he gets introduced first as well. Um, Originally, I'm going to I'm going to be calling the overseer him, but in the audiobook version it's actually them because it's never disclosed what their gender is. It's just kind of like, I mean, it's just a voice behind a mask, right? But in the actual book, in the actual story, um, they are referred to as him, he, him. So the overseer in the story is um, this faceless force that's immediately introduced as someone who is just there. All of a sudden, he's just there. He pulls up, he gets the job done, and he leaves immediately. And because of that, he's very oppressive. He's very oppressive because the entire city is just kind of like, okay, yeah, cool plan. However, what are you gonna do about that guy? And then they all like point the overseer. And that's a big part of the story as well. That just unknowing of like, I don't know. This guy seems to have infinite resources, infinite people at his disposal. We don't really know what we're fighting. We just know that he is the overseer. He leads the peacekeeper force, and he's got seemingly absolute power over that police force. Um, so that's a lot of what the struggle against the overseer is. It is struggling against overwhelming power. Um, so when you're facing an unstoppable force, or better yet, when you are portraying an unstoppable force, um, it is probably good to understand why he is so unstoppable. And one of the main reasons is that he's completely anonymous. So going into this, I marked the role as androgynous to kind of call over anyone who was willing to give it a shot. It didn't matter your voice style or your IRL gender. Like, I don't care. It's an androgynous voice, and just give it your all. Um, and that's what I got. Some of the first some of the first takes on the overseer were actually from people who usually did adult female voices, and that was really refreshing because, like I said, in the original story, it's a male character, so getting female voices was very refreshing to me, and it kind of opened my eyes to the possibilities of having a different kind of overseer. Um, and as I was going through those submissions, that feeling got back a lot. Like, okay, but if I did this, that would open doors here and here, and then I could change this and this, and that would add more depth to here and here and this and so. And that happened all the time with every single submission I got. But inevitably, I had to settle on one. So the person who ended up being is Derek Vincent. But let's see, the first one I got. One of the first ones I got was also Exotic Butter, who also auditioned for the Overseer. And initially, I was going to say I'm going to either pick Craven for Alex and then pick Exotic Butter for the Overseer, but then there ended up being a lot bigger time gap between those picks, so that changed a lot of things. But Exotic Butter was still easily in my top three. Um, so between all these takes, there was one that was kind of cool to me, and that was Skylar's. I'll just let you hear it. I think you'll understand what I mean. 1 second, I'm gonna be sure that I'm ready to adjust the volume because I think this one's kind of loud. Okay.
Efficiently handled, as always. You may go. We shall clean up now. Efficiently handled, as always. You may go. We shall clean up now. I expect your full cooperation and loyalty, CEO of Forever Tech. We will meet again soon. I expect your full cooperation and loyalty, CEO of Forever Tech. We will meet again soon. Witness the eye, and it witnesses you. Let it in. Let it see.
So there's probably I'm missing out on a little bit here, but that's pretty much what I was referring to. There's this take. So Skylar's take on the Overseer is a lot more like, I would say it's almost this voice that you would hear coming out of like a disembodied AI on a spaceship. I don't know if that makes any sense to anyone else, but that's what my brain is coming up with when I hear this. It's almost this robotic voice where you feel like it's someone who is just kind of like transcendent above the other people in the room. You know, unafraid, kind of like really confident and just undeniably, what do you call it? Like just unwavering. I don't know how else to describe it. And I thought that was really interesting because the Overseer is a character like that. The Overseer is inherently a character who should be unafraid and who should appear to be very confident because that's the entire shtick. You are this untouchable person. You have no one to fear, frankly. If you could probably wipe all of the major factions from the face of the earth, but you don't. So there's a certain tint of playfulness there, and I think Skylar did manage to capture that. So I think that was an interesting take. And then, of course, there were also some takes that were much more um, into the more usual grasp of things, meaning it was more like a heavy voice with more static and more of like a villain esque tone behind it, just immediately off the bat. And Exotic Butter was one of those takes. I'll show that actually. Uh, Here, this one. I'll get ready to adjust the volume again.
Efficiently handled as always. You may go. We shall clean up now. I expect your full cooperation and loyalty, CEO of Forever Tech. We will meet again soon. Witness the eye, and it witnesses you. Let it in, let it see.
So that's immediately this almost stereotypical villain feel. And that's why Exotic Butter was high on my list, because I figured if I do end up deciding that I don't want something like something of a quote unquote creative take on the character, and I just want straight up villain, then I need Butter. So that's why I had him there. Um, and then the one I ended up going with. Ooh, I don't fully remember what my thought process was. I just know that I really liked this one. And I remember that my friend did too. Here, Derek.
Efficiently handled, as always. You may go. We shall clean up now. I expect your full cooperation and loyalty, CEO of Forever Tech. We will meet again soon.
Witness the eye, and it witnesses you. Let it in. Let it see.
Okay, I remember. I remember why I went with Derek. And it's because Derek's take on this character is humanizing in a way. Like a lot of the other takes sounded either really villainy or had this kind of uh well actually no, let's just backpedal a second here. Most of the things I got were very villainy, and although I love that, I really do. Um, there's something about making the overseer seem very human. Um, to really go into the reason why, um, making a very inhumane and like almost disembodied character like the overseer seem human is this kind of weird contrast where, again, this unstoppable force is just a normal guy. And I think that's what I went with because of that contrast, because I love contrast in stories. And I think it's really interesting when characters show that same reflection, a reflection that you don't really expect. Um, the voice behind the overseer is probably going to end up being filtered when the final product gets edited because he's wearing a mask and there needs to be this like kind of dust filter over it. Not a dust filter, but you know what I mean, like this kind of like crackly tint, like you're talking to a microphone. Um, so not a lot might not a lot is going to translate on that probably, but maybe it will. I'm kind of hoping it will, and if it doesn't, then I'll probably have to tune down the static on it because I do want to keep that voice and keep that humanity in there. Um, you could say, in some way, that's a bit of a bland pick. Going into this, I really wanted to get a female voice because I thought it would be a cool spin on the character. However, there are some very good reasons why I didn't end up doing that, and most of those reasons are actually spoiler related, so I'm not going to elaborate at all. Um, but I'll just say I had my reasons to not go with a female voice, even though I listed as androgynous. At the time of listing it, and even at the time of going through the auditions, I still wasn't quite sure about it, so that's why the ad stayed that way. But yeah, in retrospect, um, this is probably the better choice. And I think when Blacklight gets released and it gets to that point, because I'm just not gonna happen within the first episode, but when we're like maybe 10 episodes in, the reveal is probably going to come. And when it does, I think it's gonna be great. And I think it's going to click why I didn't want that. So yeah, that's the overseer. I'm going to untoggle. There we go. Alright. Raven. Ooh, okay. Raven is a bit funky. Um, Raven is almost a light mirror of the Overseer in some ways. Because the Overseer is this very controlling character who oftentimes operates through knowledge and just being one step ahead of people. And Raven does the same thing in a lot of ways. Because they are the leader of this organization called the Collective, and the Collective is an information service. They trade in information that is illegally obtained, usually, but most of the time, not actual blackmail, if that makes sense. It's kind of like taking information that you could acquire publicly in a legal way and then reselling it. That's what they do. Um, it's kind of difficult. It's difficult to explain what I mean. I think it'll become clearer when the actual story comes out. Um, but they really kind of hug the border between illegal activity and legal, like borderline legal redistribution of the contraband. So inherently, they are a money focused group, but they are by no means a rich group. Like all of the other organizations, so the militia, the peacekeeper force, and the importantly the agency, they all have this kind of foothold where they either have a really big headquarters or they're a big group. They have a lot of people, a lot of resources, but Raven doesn't have that. The collective is not a big group, not at all. It's maybe like 20 people compared to the agencies like roughly 2000 people. So those 20 people within the collective, they work very closely together, basically out of a basement in a nightclub, and they just keep gathering and reselling information, and all that money just goes directly into the collective's bank account, which is almost never touched. Um, and that's also a plot hook as to why that money is never touched and why it is all just locked away. Like, why are they hoarding this and never using it for new equipment? Why did they steal everything if they could just buy at least half the equipment legally? And yeah, that's a plot hook. But I'm getting sidetracked here. Let's go back to the actual character. So the actual character Raven is this non-binary person who leads the group, and they're very crafty, independent, um, and they are like specifically it says here capable of bending any disadvantage into new leverage over their rivals. And Raven's personality is a mix between protectiveness over their organization and cockiness, as confidence in their own skills, although justified, sometimes comes back to haunt them. So there we have it again, that confidence that's in a lot of characters. So Nick is a confident person, the Overseer is a confident person, Raven is confident. And that confidence is a trait that comes back with a lot of the characters. That's almost necessary for a person to survive. You have to be knowledgeable about your own strengths and you have to know how to leverage them. And Raven is very much a person who knows how to leverage their strengths. When they have power over someone through the shape of maybe blackmail or an infiltrator or some kind of information gained in another way that could be harmful, um, they immediately recognize this and they hang it over people's heads. So the collective is this constant force of dread over people, and Raven is too. Um, so yeah, it's just overall this very intelligent but cocky person who sometimes has to get bailed out by the second in command, Dean, who is further down low. Yeah, and Raven is actually one of the first characters in the story to actually negotiate with the Overseer despite what everyone else is doing. Um, which is an interesting point in the story because there's this idea that the Overseer is this omnipotent force of nature, and Raven is just saying, "Hold the fucking phone. You're a person too, and I know things about you, and you know things about me, and I want to make sure that we understand each other here." So Raven is the first person who goes to talk with the Overseer, and that says a lot about their character. Um, all right, and then we have the actual lines: "With no respect owed, Seer, we do not enter pacts with those that hide their faces from us," which is immediately boom trademark. It just is. It just is. It's just everything what I just said. Just talking to the Overseer directly, addressing the Overseer by their kind of call sign, and then just going like, "We do not enter pact with those that hide their faces from us." Like immediately just setting a benchmark and saying like, "Hey, you're not exempt from the rules that we follow." So that's one. And then, "You hurt my head, old man. Will you step into the light or not?" Just intolerance towards other smooth talkers, while Raven themselves is arguably a fairly smooth talker, or at least a person who has a lot of things, a lot of information to share, and is willing to leverage that. So, um, in these lines, in the first one, I specifically wanted to hear um, that sense of like assertiveness of knowing what you want and like putting your foot down. And then in the second one, I was looking for again assertiveness, and in the last one, you are making an enemy that you can't beat drone. I was looking for a mix of snark as well as offense, because your Raven is taking offense here because someone looks at them and says, "Actually, I can take you." And that never happens with the collective. No one threatens the collective because they know things, and no one wants those things to leak. So everyone's just kind of playing along and making sure that the collective likes you. And the overseer in this scene is saying, "Hey, I don't care who you are. I'm coming after you too if you give me a reason." And Raven is countering with, "You are this confident, but I am more confident than you that I can beat you." So, yeah, confidence, assertiveness was important with Raven, but also the ability to make it like snarky and kind of like impatient. Um, yeah, the person I ended up getting for that was Alan Rigel. I don't actually know how you pronounce that. I'm gonna assume Rigel, Alan Rigel, and yeah, I got a lot of submissions, which is surprising because it's a non-binary character, and I honestly didn't expect to get that many people involved in it. But I ended up getting a lot actually. Also a lot that came in. Um, Actually, I was going to say a few that came in after the character was already taken, but that's not true. This character was taken, I think, maybe. Ooh, actually, no. I think the character was already taken. Well, doesn't matter. What matters is I did get a lot of people here. Skylar actually also did a take on this one. I ended up not going with that because I wanted a bit of a softer voice. Well, not softer, but uh, here I almost went to V. Um, I ended up messaging V about a different role because I still wanted their voice on the project, and there's this other character called Rook, who I thought would be a great fit for V. But it was between V and Alan when I was making my choice, and this is V's take.
With no respect owed, sir, we do not enter pacts with those that hide their faces from us. You hurt my head, old man. Will you step into the light or not? You are making an enemy that you can't beat, drone.
So there's a lot of takes here. Um, One of the main reasons that I was going to go with V is because V themselves are non-binary. So that was the main driving point, because it was kind of like, I do want a non-binary person to do this in a way that was important to me. Um, but also, it's just, I don't know, I just liked it. Again, I just liked it going into it. And then we have Alan, who ended up being the main pick. Let's see. Alan was actually sent in after, I think. Yeah, there we go. It decided to go with this cocky, snarky approach while mixing the personality with the voice. So yeah, that's what I was looking for, right? I needed the snark, the cocky approach.
With no respect owed, seer. We do not enter pacts with those that hide their faces from us. Ugh, you hurt my head, old man. Will you step into the light or not? You're making an enemy that you can't beat, drone.
Yeah, so as you can see, or hear for that matter, is that there's a lot of personality in these lines. There's a lot of lot of confidence shining through the way that first line is done.
With no respect owed, seer. We do not enter pacts with those that hide their faces from us.
Like that's specifically that we do not, um, which I thought was great, because it's really that putting your foot down idea. Like, we do not, emphasis being on not. And I think that was the main drive behind why we ended up going with Alan. This one was also peer reviewed, I guess, by my friends. So this was not a choice that I made on my own. There were a lot of other people involved in this decision as well. This was also the one audition where I ended up having to follow up. I contacted both Alan and V simultaneously and asked them both to give me some extra lines because I just couldn't do it. I didn't know which person to pick. But yeah, I ended up going with Alan, but I still kept in contact with V, and I'm currently working on Rook's character as well, which is who I'm setting away for V, because I still want that person on board. All right. Okay, that's Raven. I don't know how many other characters we have left to go. We have like 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 different characters, plus a narrator and an audio engineer. So I guess we're just gonna go over the other, like the remaining 4 characters. 2 of which, 3 of which I haven't picked yet. They're still open. Let's take a look at Sable. I have chosen someone for Sable, so that role is closed. Also opening my second window here for a moment. The stream seems to be doing okay still, so yeah, okay, we're continuing on. Alright, let's take a look at Sable. So it immediately says here, like, Sable is a big shot among the ranks of the militia, which is an underground army of ex-military personnel and ambitious fighters who seek to topple the current order. That's a very big generalization of the militia, which is arguably the largest faction in all of Korridan. Like the description says, though, they are this militarized force who fight at face value, if that's the right term. They don't hide, they don't sneak like the collective does. They don't do targeted assaults. Well, they do targeted assaults, but they don't do assassinations. They just storm something, storm like a big place, and they take it. They take actual ground and territory. So that's an important distinction. The militia have a territory, while the agency and the what's the other one called? The agency and the collective, they don't have a territory. They have a hideout. So that's the main distinction. And within the ranks of the militia, there's this character called Sable. There are, I think, it's a lot of inspiration that was drawn from the character Jinx uh from League of Legends slash what's it called, Arcane. In that this is kind of this like loudmouth, slightly unhinged character. Oh, one moment. Okay, slight hiccup there, but we're fine. Okay. What was I talking about? Yeah, so there's a lot of parallels there to Jinx, actually. But she's different in a few key components. For example, Sable is a character who has not yet lost it all. Sable is a character that fights mostly out of want, not necessarily need. There's a strong sense here of wanting to prove herself towards the people who fight with her, but also the people who fight against her, and just the order in general. She wants to prove that she can be this person that she subscribes to, because there's a lot of admiration she has for the leadership of the militia. And that comes back a lot. So, as a character, she's very confident, slightly unhinged, and again, confidence, right? But also, she is stubborn, which is something other than confidence, in my book at least. She refuses to take orders from anyone, but the upper echelon, and specifically despise as being criticized, she controls her environment by being the loudest voice in the room, unafraid to let her opinions and plans be known, even when she is talking to a superior, which is exactly the description of the militia as a whole, right? They are this group of people um, who are trying to be the loudest voice in the room, who are trying to overshadow everyone else, who are unafraid of facing things head on, and who will not accept being ruled over by someone who would be above them. So, in that way, Sable is textbook militia. Um, the lines being in and out, 5 minutes and we're gone, with or without it. And who the fuck do you think you are? Howl ass back to base. I'll take Mark and meet you there. I don't know what Twitch does with swear words, because there are curses in the project. Quite a lot of them, actually. There are curses all over the place. Actually, I'm just gonna decide I don't really care. So we're just gonna do it anyway. It immediately shows like 1 in and out, 5 minutes and we're gone. Assertiveness in the sense of like a leadership position, because she is, after all, the leader of a squad, a strike force. And who the fuck do you think you are? So that's that, like, intolerant towards someone talking down on her. And then haul ass back to base. I'll take Mark and meet you there, which is very similar to that first line. Just having to be able to have that leadership voice and being loud. That loudness was specifically what I was looking for in those lines, like just being present. One of the contestants for this role was Skylar. Let's go down to Skylar for a second, who we also had in the other role that I was talking about here, Skylar Rose. So let's take a look at this, because she is like I've kind of figured that Skylar is a person who is very good at being like that really loud and in your face character, and I thought that would be a good fit. When I saw that she auditioned for this, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna put a pin on that and I'll be back. So here it is.
In and out. 5 minutes and we're gone. With or without it. In and out. 5 minutes and we're gone. With or without it. And who the fuck do you think you are?
And I liked it. I did. I thought it was great. Later on, like these two auditions were 3 days apart, but I ended up picking one for this, like maybe less than a week ago. I ended up picking Atlas though. Atlas was my choice for Sable. I accidentally did a thing that I did not want to do. We do not do things when I'm trying to do the other thing. Atlas. So this is the one I end up going with.
In and out. 5 minutes and we're gone. With or without it. And who the fuck do you think you are? Haul ass back to base. I'll take Mark and meet you there.
I think we ended up going with this character, this voice actor, because she was a lot she had a bit more punch. In the sense that Sable is trying to be this oppressive personality in the room, but she's not really, you know. And I think that kind of echoes in that voice. I don't know how else to describe it, so I might have to come back to that some other time and revisit. I do think I made the right choice going for Atlas, also after talking to friends about it. But I want to revisit Skylar, because she was like in the top 3 for so many roles that I kind of figured that she should be in the project in some way. So I'm going to revisit this actually. Maybe not for Sable specifically, but definitely for the project. All right, then we have Dean. Dean is still open. I haven't currently picked someone for that yet. How to describe Dean? Well, as it says here, Dean is Raven's second in command, and she is this kind of parallel to Sable, in a sense that she is older than Sable, but she's also calm, collected, kind of like cold in a way, but also very level-headed and just Dean is not a person who commands respect. She just has it by default. You know, she's just like this natural leader who doesn't have to raise her voice. Whenever she's in the room, people just listen to her. But also, she's a brawler. She's this kind of like pretty muscular character who just gets into fights, and whenever Raven is being threatened, Raven is not usually being the one finishing that fight, but it's pretty much always Dean just coming in with like a hook out of left field, you know? So yeah. Going into Dean, I did know I wanted it to be a relatively deep voice. That was the main deal. It needed to be a pretty deep voice. And that's where we are now, really. I haven't made a choice yet. Because let's see which one has the most listens, I suppose. We can do that real quick, because I got one, like, literally today, I think that is. Yeah, I got 2 today. 3 today. Yeah, I got 3 today, and a bunch yesterday. One of the more, like, the longer existing ones, like this one, I think, stuck with me. I remember this one being a thing. Let me check this real quick.
Do you want to help the collective or not? Do you want to help the collective or not? Yeah. Something, scalpel, lion's den, whatever. He wants someone dead.
Actually, yeah. I think this one was actually too. The voice was like what's the opposite of deep? I guess shallow. It was like a little bit too light, a little bit too up there. I needed Dean to be this more soft-spoken character in a way, in a very specific way. I think Irilyn got pretty close.
Do you want to help the collective or not? Yeah. Something, scalpel, lion's den, whatever.
I think there's a lot more personality in there, and it definitely inches towards that kind of depth I was hoping for. But there's just something still missing. I think it's almost too. It's almost too. Commander-ish. Well, not commander, but like. It's almost got a little bit of like a villain vibe to it. I don't know how else to describe it. It's almost a villain vibe. And I don't know if that's what I want with Dean. Because I don't think that Dean is a villain. I think that Dean is inherently a fairly benevolent character, or at least a very fair character. Let's see which other one stuck. Moxie's one stuck a lot. Yeah, Moxie's stuck.
Do you want to help the collective or not? Yeah, something, scalpel, lion's den, whatever. He wants someone dead. So, what will it be, pup?
And I think this one's really good because it has that depth, but it also has that no nonsense tone I was going for. It literally says here, like, I hope I hit that no nonsense tone. And Moxie, you definitely did. You definitely hit that tone, and you got exactly what I was hoping for. I kind of liked the British accent take on Dean, even though I didn't typically imagine her as much as such. I still think it was very interesting. It definitely kind of scratched an itch for me. It felt like Dean in a way. I was also wondering if maybe I wanted this specific voice at for a character that I haven't yet put on the page. because there are some side characters that would really benefit from a voice like this. Um, like there's this character called Star, Oathkeeper Star, and I kind of wanted to see if maybe Mox was a good fit for that one. So I'm even if I don't end up going with this voice for Dean, I will probably still contact this person because I think that even if it's not the right pick for Dean, it's definitely going to be the right pick for one of these characters because I just like it. I just really love it. Let's see, because another main pick I think was dogs.
Do you want to help the collective or not? Do you want to help the collective or not? Yeah, something, scalpel, lion's den, whatever. He wants someone dead.
I think this is what I think I like this one because it's pretty similar in terms of like kind of depth, but also kind of this straightforward no nonsense tone that Moxie has. It's a little bit less no nonsense, but it feels a little bit not lighter, but it feels a little bit less oppressive, which think kind of speaks to the character in the sense that Dean is not an oppressive character. She's a very respected person, but not oppressive, and I think that dogs really hit that one. Okay, let's move on to the next one. I sadly don't have infinite time today because I like here you can see the time. I do have to eventually go and rest my head because I've been making late hours recently to work on this project, which is probably not healthy practice. So let's move on to Talon. Talon is the leader of the Nightingale Agency, which is also like the lead of the Nightingale Agency is also called the Nightingale. And Talon is an assassin. The Nightingale Agency are a group of assassins, hired killers, infiltrators. They do focus strike. So they get paid to take someone out. They go in there, kill that person, and get away with it. That's their job. They get away with it. And because of this, the organization is kind of like not really respected, but definitely feared in a sense that they have a lot of power. They get hired a lot by other organizations like the militia, but also the collective. And there are some hints that they even get hired at times by the overseer, but that's never really revealed in the first couple chapters if that's the case or not. Because there's definitely also some blackmail elements to the overseer, right? So the question is kind of like, are they doing this voluntarily? Do they get paid for this? Is it just the money, or are there other factors to which contract they do and do not take? But Talon as a character is, I think, a little bit similar to Dean in a sense that he has this natural, he is naturally respected in the room. He doesn't have to raise his voice. He doesn't have to be loud to make his point. But the difference being is that Dean has a lot of that natural air, while Talon has proven himself over and over again. Because the Nightingale actually doesn't get picked through like monarchy or popular vote or like even just hiring a new CEO. It doesn't work like that. A Nightingale gets elected on display of power and making an ultimate sacrifice, which is a trope that comes back a lot in stories like this. Like these dark, grim societies where you have to fend for yourself. It's very popular to say like, oh, you have to like, you have to fight someone or you have to beat the past king, to become that person. But that's not the case with the Nightingale Society. It is a display of power, but you don't actually kill the other person. It's more like you have to get people on your side, so more of like in a presidential kind of thing. But then also, you have to be clearly stronger. And the way you do that is by being undeniably better at your job. And how do you prove that? By going after the biggest, baddest guy in town and turning his lights off. And that's how Talon did it. It's never. I'm not going to spoil that part of the story, but Talon killed someone really, really influential, like a really high up there guy. And that just solidified his spot as a Nightingale, and no one's been able to top that so far. And that's why he has that respect. That's why he doesn't have to raise his voice towards his followers. He's just the best of them, and everyone knows it. So that's why it said like he's cold. He is kind of this um almost monotone character who just seemingly has no depth to them, but he's very calculating. When he says something, he means it, and he's thought about it probably more times than you have. So when he speaks, everyone's kind of like, "Oh, hold the phone. He's only gonna say this once, and everyone needs to listen." So yeah, that's pretty much the rundown of the character. Um, I haven't picked one for this one. There's been so much animo for Talon. 78 submissions um compared to characters like the PKF Stalker or like Dean and Sable, who have been online for much longer. We get like 30 each, 19 for Raven, 28 for the Overseer, who is the big bad. Like, you'd expect a lot of submissions for the Overseer, and like 44 for Alex, who's framed as the main character. So that's like expected. But then Talon, 78. What the hell? You know? 78 people wanted to play Talon. And just this morning, I've been thinning out the herd a little bit, in a sense that I've just made 2 lists of like people who I think do have what it takes and people who I think would be better fit for a different role. And I'm just kind of tearing it apart with my hands here because I need some grip. 78. So many people. And yeah. The person that actually made me add this role was where are they? Oh, I just realized it has multiple pages because that's how long this list is. Here, Mad King, Noir Mad King, is actually the person who made me enter these lines.
We would do well not to underestimate the ones who invoke an ancient god.
I thought that voice was fitting. Just right off the bat, I heard that voice and I was like, okay, I need to make a page for Talon. But I still wanted to give more people a chance since Talon is quite a large role. He's there for most of the story, and I wanted to be sure I picked the right person. So instead of just straight up giving Mad King the role, I actually just made a normal listing for it. And there's a lot of people. A lot of people? A lot of people? Is this so many? Like, this one has 35.
We would do well not to underestimate the ones who invoke an ancient god.
Shiver me timbers. I almost forgot about how low that voice is. And a really low voice would be a good option for Talon, in the sense that it would just fit. It just fits the character, right? You have this big scary guy. Well, not big, but like you got this scary guy who just kind of sits in his office chair, like looks out over this dark place because he has this office that notoriously doesn't have any lights. So he's just sitting in this dark room talking to you, and he's pretty much faceless, right? And it just has this villain vibe to a character who's not really a villain. So voice could be a good pick. So that one is just definitely up there. Let me see if there's anyone else who got a lot of listens, a lot of views. This one. This one got a lot.
We would do well not to underestimate the ones who invoke an ancient god. We would do well not to underestimate the ones who invoke an ancient god.
I really liked the accent for this one, and that's because Talon is an immigrant. I already decided that beforehand. Talon was going to be this person who is not actually native to Corridam and hasn't lived there for that long. So that kind of accent being different from standard American was kind of perfect. So I think that's why that one got a lot of attention. I remember shortlisting that. Yeah, so that's Talon for now because I don't really have much else to say about this. I still have to go through the actual legwork of deciding on someone, and I'm definitely going to need the help of some friends again there. Alright, okay. Last actual role beyond narrator, audio engineer, is the PKF Stalker, and this is a minor villain role. This person turns up in the first episode and chases down Nick. That's really all they do. Nick steals a flash drive from a corporation, almost gets away with it, and then he's got a peacekeeper on his tail. And that's the plot of that specific chapter. Nick gets chased down by this peacekeeper, and they have some back and forth dialogue. I had 3 lines of this dialogue listed here. Please run, makes this more fun. I have had it with leeches like you, and ha! Got ya, you feathered rat. Because I thought that hit all 3 spots, like the please run makes this more fun, almost like kind of psychopathic behavior, like please make this more difficult for me because I need this chase. And then I have had it with leeches like you, this anger towards people who they perceive as lesser, who they perceive as parasites. And then, ha, got ya, you feathered rat. Again, someone being lesser than you and like beating them. I was actually going to accept multiple people for this role because I wanted to have multiple peacekeepers since there would be like multiple throughout the episode, or at least throughout the book. So I was like, okay, I might get like 3 or 4 people, and it was listed as many different voices: female young adult, androgynous, male adult, female adult, and male young adult. Just basically anything at all. And I also listed as this non-named character. Feel free to put your spin on it. So that's where we are now. Just this villain who you can make your own, right? So I got a lot of really fun submissions. I had a lot of fun listening to these because I think it's cool just hearing people give their vibes on this. Moxie also sent one in.
Please run. Makes this more fun. Please run. Makes this more fun. I have had it with leeches like you.
And I think she really hit that like manic, psychopathic vibe that she was going for. So that's really cool. I love that because that's what I wanted out of this. I wanted someone to just go all in and just be this really unhinged person because I've stated as much here. I said the only thing I have planned out is that this specific stalker really, really likes to chase, almost obsessively. And I think that obsession is probably something important for stalkers, which I should probably have listed in the listing. So I might go back to that and just change the actual listing to say like that they are very obsessive people and they are just straight up unhinged. They just are. And I think she really hit that, but I think a lot of people hit that. A lot of people got that hint immediately. Because the first one I got was from someone. That's not the first one, I think. Is it? Oh yeah, it is. From Liz C. This is the first one I got the night that I posted it, and blew me out of the water. I just immediately fell in love with this role. I was like, okay, is this minor character, and people are just going all in, and I loved it every second.
Please run. Makes this more fun. Oh, please run. Makes this more fun. I have had it with leeches like you. Oh, I have had it with leeches like you.
Now, Liz does sound a little bit less fanatical and obsessive, but Liz definitely hits that, like, the straight up villain role. Because this is a villain. There's no ambiguity here, in the sense that it's an antagonist. Maybe not a villain, but definitely an antagonist. It's this person who's chasing down Nick over theft and is just immediately obsessing over it. And just goes, okay, I'm going to hurt you, probably, maybe even kill you, and it's going to end badly. It's just made clear right away. So the character also needs to be this person who just goes like, hey, I've got you, and you're done for. And I think Liz did hit that vibe in the sense of like this kind of powerful person who knows that they've, you know, gotten there, who knows that they don't have to be afraid of getting caught because they are law enforcement and they have that kind of power. I don't really know where I was going with that sentence, but I hope I made my point. Anyway, I'm still listening to these, and since it got posted like 4 days ago, 3 days ago, I'm still giving it time. The narrator role was filled unexpectedly. There didn't used to be a narrator role. Initially, going into this, I was just going to have it be mostly dialogue. It was going to be mostly dialogue, and then there were going to be some moments where there was narration, but the narration would be done by the characters having the leading perspective in that sequence. So in the first chapter, it would have been Nick. In the second chapter, it would have been Dorian, and that was my way of doing it. But then I came across Alice, who had a voice that I really wanted in the project, but it just didn't quite fit the character that she was going for. Or maybe no, I remember now. She was going for Dean, I think, and then it just there was something, because I got back to it and I was like, wait, I've got more characters I want you to check out. And I showed her this list of characters. I showed like Shay, and I think I only showed Shay, and then I was like, wait a second, I've got this cool person. I need to tell you about this. It was like days after we had that encounter, and I said like, hey, listen, I've been thinking about this, and I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if you were the narrator? Because I thought she had a really cool voice for that. And thank the gods she said yes. Because if she hadn't said yes, I probably would have like immediately had to banish that thought for the time being, because I already had so much stuff that I was taking care of at the time. So the fact that she said yes immediately was just like, great, grand, okay, close deal, you know? So that's why this role is here. This never actually really opened. It was briefly listed as open, which it shouldn't have. It should have been listed as closed, but it was listed as open, and I got like 2 submissions, and it was confusing for people, and I felt bad about it. But I messaged Fizzy when this person sent the thing. I think it was already listed closed, so that's kind of odd, but maybe they just didn't notice it was listed as such. So I'm just gonna pretend I didn't see that. But yeah, I contacted Fizzy and let her know, like, hey, sorry, I made a mistake of the listing, but please feel free to take a look at the other stuff, right? But that was like the consensus. So yeah, that's the narrator, and finally I'm looking for an audio engineer, probably multiple even, because I do want to have some background music maybe in some scenes, and there are some sound effects, because I figured if I'm gonna make an audiobook anyway, I wanted to go all in. I wanted to just have the full package, and I was like, what better way to utilize audio instead of words? By what better way than actually making use of of not VFX but audio effects? So there are points where there's engines, the sound of people walking around, just doing things like slamming on a door, slamming on a hatch, like running, water dripping. It's just these different noises, rain, um, that I wanted to use to really set the scene. So that's why I needed an audio engineer, because I wasn't going to let this be just a normal audiobook. I thought that would be incredibly boring, because honestly, I love it when you have a good narrator and they just tell you the story. I think that's great, because I love it when people just tell me the story instead of me having to read it, which is funky because I'm a writer, but also I hate reading. Well, I don't hate reading, but you know what I mean. And um, I was like, I wanted to do something more of it, and that's why I want an audio engineer. All right, we are almost 2 hours in. I did a lot of talking and not a whole lot of writing, which I was kind of planning on doing. I was going to do writing, and then I didn't. Um, oops. But I don't really mind. I think it was great to just get my thoughts out there. Maybe someone will look back this VOD later and check it out. Maybe? Maybe not? Well, whatever happens, happens. And if you do end up listening to this way in the future, when this project is already out, and maybe you're listening to this like a day from now, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. I will be closing this. Um, yeah. What else is there to say? I don't know. I've been spending so much time thinking about this project mainly. It's been a long time coming, really. I miss obsessing over something like this just for days, hours, weeks, even years sometimes. Last time I obsessed over something this much was when I released Fireweaver, and that was 2 years ago. Like, that's nuts. Fireweaver was 2 years ago? Like, what the hell? And now we're doing this. Yeah. I don't know. I guess a part of me kind of hoped that one of my stories would have really taken off and I wouldn't have had to worry about um, stuff like finances, like funding these projects, and um, hoping that someone stumbled across it. And once upon a time, I wasn't really worried about that. I kind of just figured if someone read it, then great. If no one does, then fine. So I never really advertised my things. I never really advertised Fireweaver. In retrospect, I'm happy that I didn't advertise Fireweaver, because that story desperately needs a rewrite. It just does. It needs to be redone, start to finish. That should have been a draft, not the final version. Um, but yeah, in a way, I'm kind of happy that nothing took off, because I don't know what I would have done. I think I might have done something stupid. I might have like dropped out of school or something last year and chased this full time. I mean, of course, if it had worked out, then it wouldn't have been stupid, right? But yeah, it didn't, which is fine. I just hope that someone finds this and that someone ends up listening to this, because there's already people being so passionate about it, or at least being really convincing. Um, and I just hope people find it. Maybe they will if I stream once upon a time. Maybe they will if I post YouTube videos, trailers, bloopers, whatever I need to do. I don't know. Feel like an attention craving pet sometimes. But I don't think that's what it is. I don't think it's me wanting attention. I think in the end, it's just I have this overwhelming need to tell a story, and I would love nothing more than for people to listen to it. maybe they will. Maybe they will. Anyway, I am just going to tune out for today. It's getting late. It's almost 11:30. So yeah, it doesn't seem late maybe for some of you, but I haven't been that much of a nighttime person ever since I went back to school. It's been taking a lot of energy just being out there and going places. Um, I kind of wish I could have made the stream any longer, but I don't really know what to do about it. I could go and write some stuff, but I don't feel like I could get anything on paper right now, so yeah. Thank you for being here and chilling with me. If you're looking at this in the future, again, thank you for dropping by. If you are one of the voice actors who ended up coming along this project, and even if you just sent in a submission and didn't get heard, I'm sorry. I tried to. At first, I went into this thinking I was going to give everyone who would drop by some kind of role, but with something 200 of you, there's no way I have enough roles. But yeah, thank you. Alright, I'm gonna quit for real now, so goodbye, and may the North Star guide you home.